Greetings! In today's video, I will be taking a look at this beautiful palette from Rubens. It is one of their 24 color set. They have quite a few, and this one comes in the same kind of really nice sturdy box. In the box, we have a swatch sheet on the sparkly paper, which is pretty cool. The tin comes in a microfiber cloth, like all of their tins do. This one is blue, and the tin is also blue, which I think was really cool. You have the little Rubens logo at the bottom left of the lid. When you open the box, inside you have, your usual layout for a tin like this. So you have the lid with its mixing areas, you have a flap with more mixing areas, and then you have the main part of the palette, which includes the tray with all the half pans in it. This set, like I said, has 24 colors. They come with a wrapper with all the pigment and color info. You also have all the pigment and color info on the swatch card. And that's it for a quick tour of this palette. Now, I was also sent a sketchbook and a really interesting item, which is a watercolor calendar. You basically have 12 sheets with the dates of the month, all the calendar info. There are 2 quotes, and there's a big empty space in the middle for you to paint something to create your own custom calendar, which I think is really cool, and I'm looking forward to trying that. I don't think I've tried anything similar so far, but this looks like fun, so definitely intrigued. The sketchbook is named a watercolor journal. It has cotton paper with a cold pressed texture. Its size is 130 millimeters by 184 millimeters. The weight of the paper is our standard 300 GSM or 140 pound, which is kind of the most common weight for this type of paper. The sketchbook has 20 sheets. As you can see, they are perforated, and the sketchbook itself comes with an elastic to keep it closed, a pocket at the back, a little ribbon bookmark, and the cover seems to be synthetic leather, which doesn't really have a smell for this one. At first glance, the paper texture looks quite similar on both sides of every sheet. The calendar comes with the 12 sheets, like I said. It has a stand, which is shaped like a bunny. The paper is 100% cotton paper, 300 GSM again, our standard watercolor paper weight. You get 2 quotes per sheet. There's one at the top next to the logo and one at the bottom near the month. I'm not entirely sure why we get 2 quotes each month, but it's going to be interesting to read them for sure. The calendar itself traveled really well. There's a sturdy board at the back of the sheets, and it kept them together really well. It is worth noting that you can fit half pans in the middle between the rows of the tray. You have to rotate them a little bit, like not like this, but like this. But they fit. They're quite snug. They won't budge. So there's that. If your usual pans don't fit in here, you could always remove some of these, plop your regular pans in the tray, and have these pans in the middle where they fit. Now, I will be going through the colors in this set. I have the swatches on the swatch card they sent, but I also did swatches on a piece of black paper just to see the opacity of these colors. All in all, I counted about 26 total pigments within all of these colors. So some are single pigment, some are a mix, but I counted 26 different pigments for a 24 color set. You have 15 single pigment colors, 7 colors with 2 pigments, and 2 colors with 3 pigments. We also have in there 1 cadmium paint and 2 cobalt paints that technically use the same pigment code, but you'll see they're quite different. The paints have no smell whatsoever, as far as I can tell, and it is a really interesting split of color. So for our primary sort of category, we get 5 yellows, we get 2 red and or magenta, and we get like 6-ish blue and or cyan colors. It is quite an unusual split, but it matches the theme of this set that seems to be oceans or seascape. That's kind of the vibe I got from what I read on this set. Often when you have more of a botanical set, you get a lot of red and pinks, and I feel like for this particular set, it's really interesting to have all of these blues in there. Now, in terms of secondary colors, we get 1 orange, we get 1 violet, and we get about 5 green colors, which is a bit unusual as well, but I'm all for it. I love having green colors in my palettes. And then for whatever is left, so we have 1 neutral in the Payne's Gray. We have 2 colors that are like teal, aqua, turquoise. I didn't know quite where to put it because they are indeed between greens and blues, so they get their own category. And then we have just the 1 earth color. We have 1 brown. So the colors themselves, the first one is Naples Yellow. It is a mix of 3 pigments. We have a white pigment, titanium white. We have a yellow pigment, nickel titanate yellow, which is PY53. And we also have a deeper sort of tan or sand color in the PBR24. Now all of these these are quite opaque pigments usually, which also explains why this color shows up so much on the black paper. It is a really nice color. It is a bit reminiscent of the color of sand, so very fitting for an oceans palette. Then we have lemon yellow. This one is a single pigment color. It is made from pigment PY3, which is quite common, and it is usually a somewhat neutral kind of yellow, which I'm always happy to see in a palette. As you can see, it is semi-opaque here. There's quite a substantial amount of color left on the black paper, but you can sort of see through the color as well. So definitely a semi-transparent color. Following that, we have a very orangish yellow, our chromium yellow hue deep. That's PY65. I really like this color. It is also quite frequent, quite a common color. It is a really nice, warm yellow-orange color that's just about in between a yellow and an orange. This one is also semi-opaque. As you can see, there's again quite a substantial amount of color left on the paper when you paint it on black paper. Following that, we have earth yellow. This one is sort of like a yellow ochre. It is the same kind of pigment, PY42, which is a synthetic yellow iron oxide. This one is definitely more opaque, as you can again see on this paper. It doesn't look that opaque on the white paper, but on the black paper, that's when you really see just how opaque this color can be. That's usually quite common with this type of pigment, so I'm not surprised. And then we have a transparent yellow, which is very on point. It is made from PY150, that's nickel azo yellow. That's one of the rare few truly transparent yellow pigments we have. And again, it shows on the black paper. You can see the trace of where the color is, but there's no actual opacity. Like, you don't see the color per se on this particular paper. You see where it is, you see this yellow cast to the paper, but there's no opacity to the paint. Then we have our single orange and also our single cadmium color. It is cadmium orange deep, PO20. This one, again, very opaque. Not a surprise. Cadmium colors are usually quite opaque, so this tracks. I think it's really interesting to have this one as the orange color in here. I feel it is a bit of a reddish orange. That's going to be interesting to paint with, but it is really nice. And I think it works well as a transition between all of these to these two. Our red is Perylene Maroon, which is the usual pigment for this color, PR179. I quite like this pigment. It is a really versatile color in the fact that it's a slightly muted red that can go really deep, really dark, but you can also dilute it and get a color that is much lighter, of course. It is quite transparent usually, but as you can see on the paper, I would say it is semi-transparent or semi-opaque depending, but there is still a lot of the color that's left on the surface of the paper, which means that we can see it somewhat on this dark paper. Then we have our quinacridone magenta, our single magenta of this set. This one is PR122. In terms of magenta, it is a more bluish or slightly purplish magenta, so it is slightly cooler than a PV19 can be, but it is more consistent in terms of color. It is very pink, and I'm glad to see it because with this lemon yellow or neutral yellow and then a magenta, all we're missing for CMY bingo is a cyan, so we'll see. This color is quite transparent. Again, you can see a bit of it on the paper, but there's not any opacity to this color. You see where it goes on the paper, but you don't really have any kind of opaque particle to this paper. It's hard to describe, but you can see like what an opaque color looks like and what a transparent color looks like. Then bridging the magenta and the blue, we have our single purple color, or violet color in this case. In the brilliant blue violet, which is a mix of two pigments, we have ultramarine blue in there, PB29, and dioxazine violet, PV23. It's this one here, and as you can see, this one also is fully transparent. It's hard to say that I painted anything on there, but I swear I did. And then we get to our blue colors. We have 6 of them. The first one is Azure Hue. It is a mix of a white pigment, Chinese white, so our transparent white, and also PB15 column 3, which is a phthalo blue variant. This one is the green shade variant. It is a bit of a cooler variant. This color could work as a sort of lighter cyan color if you wanted to clock in your CMY bingo right away. In terms of transparency, again, this color is very transparent. I know they say they put white in there, but as you can see, it doesn't really have any kind of effect on the black paper. Following that, we have Berlin Blue, which is basically Prussian blue. It is PB27, and it is just about the hue you would expect from Prussian blue, which is a more muted blue color. Again, this color has a bit of a light fastness issue in general, but in terms of hue within this palette and transparency on this paper, as you can see, it is definitely a good addition to this selection, and it is also very transparent. Finally, our last color in this column is French blue. which is ultramarine blue. I don't know why we got Berlin blue and French blue instead of Prussian blue and ultramarine, but not an issue really. This one is our standard PB29 pigment, which is, you know, the common classic ultramarine blue pigment. It comes out very transparent on the black paper. There's hardly any kind of trace left of the color, and it is not very granulating, I think. This seems to be a relatively smooth version of this pigment. Then moving on to the other column, we have Cobalt Blue Light, which is our first cobalt pigment. It is genuine cobalt PB28. This one, as you can see here, is definitely semi-opaque. There is color that we can visibly see left on the paper. It doesn't sort of sink in the paper to become just like a shadow of itself. But it is a really beautiful color. In terms of hue, it is very similar to ultramarine blue, not the same, similar. So we get sort of a more warm blue, a reddish blue in terms of this element of color theory, and it seems to be a bit more granulating than the ultramarine blue was, so that's interesting. Following that one, we get a phthalo blue PB15 column 3, so that's the green shade variant. This one here is not altered with the transparent white pigment, so you can sort of see the difference in intensity between this one and this one. It is also very transparent on paper, and this could also be your cyan in the CMY bingo. So we have a bingo, we have our cyan options in these two blues, we have our magenta here, and we have a neutral yellow. So we got that covered. The phthalo blue on the dark paper is basically a shadow of a color, visible but not by a lot. And the last blue here is indigo. It's this one here. It is a mix of two pigment. We have a PB15 column 1, which is a phthalo blue red shade, so a slightly, when I say slightly, it is a very, very small shift towards a more red color, like very, very slightly. And with that, we have PB66, which is synthetic indigo, which I'm always happy to see in palettes. Of course, this color is going to have a bit of a light fastness issue in general because of the synthetic indigo, but in terms of a specific hue, it's really nice to have something that is a bit more accurate to what indigo is like. The indigo on the dark paper is basically invisible. It is there. I can sort of see it depending on the angle, but it disappears. Then we have our one neutral that got kind of inserted next to the indigo, but before the greens. It is our Payne's Gray Bluish. It is similar to indigo, not the same, similar, but this one is a mix of three pigments, so we get a black pigment, PBK9, ultramarine blue, PB29, and dioxazine violet, PV23. For a color that is, you know, mostly neutral, we can see the blue cast to this color, but it is more difficult to see the purple cast, let's say. Because of the ultramarine in this color, I wonder if it's a little bit granulating. It's hard to see on this paper, but that would be a really interesting aspect of this color if that were the case. The Payne's Gray on the dark paper is a bit like the indigo in the sense that it also disappears. Moving on to the greens, we have three greens here, then we're gonna have a little bit of an interruption and then the remaining greens, but first green is May Green, which is again a color name that we see often in many sets. It usually refers to this warmer, yellower kind of green color, and in this case it is indeed a warmer, yellower green. It is a mix of a yellow pigment, PY151, which is often seen as a good alternative to a Reolin because it would be a whole lot more light fast and wouldn't shift to gray over time. This color is mixed with a little bit of phthalo green blue shade, PG7. This is our May Green on the dark paper. This one is definitely semi-opaque. This opacity definitely comes from the PY151 pigment because PG7 is transparent. So the PY151 in here is what makes it visible on the dark paper. The next color is our Sap Green. This one is also a really nice mix of two pigments. So this time we get PY153, which as a pigment is supposed to be discontinued. It is supposed to be no longer manufactured, but I keep seeing it in paint sets. So I have no idea what's up with that, but it's in here mixed with PG7 to give us this slightly darker, slightly more intense green color. Our Sap Green on the black paper is a little bit visible, but not a lot. So I don't even think I would call that semi-transparent or semi-opaque. I think I would still call it transparent, but you can definitely see a bit of a ghost of a color in here. And then our next color is the ubiquitous PG7. This one is named Oriental Green, but it is PG7, phthalo green blue shade, a very staining, transparent, light fast color. PG7 on the dark paper is completely transparent. There's but a shadow of a color in here, and you might be hard pressed to guess what color it would be. And then we are taking our little break from the greens to take a look at the aqua and teal colors. So the aqua color is cobalt turquoise, our second cobalt pigment. It is also PB28. like the cobalt blue was, but a significantly different hue, as you can clearly see. This color is amazing. I really like it. It is so nice. It is so much fun to use, to mix with. It has granulation. It is a nice, vibrant teal color. You can do an alternate cyan, magenta, yellow palette by substituting the cyan with this color. It's going to limit your versatility a little bit, but it's going to bring in texture and a lot of fun stuff. So I'm super happy to see they included this color in this set because it fits the theme just so well. On the black paper, like a cobalt blue or cobalt turquoise. These are colors that are opaque or semi-opaque. You definitely see them on the black paper. As a little note, the cobalt turquoise and the cobalt blue, yes, they're the same pigment, but I read that the color shifts depending on what the cobalt oxide crystallizes with. I cannot explain it, I'm not a chemist, but I thought that was really interesting to know where exactly in the process does the color change. Our translucent turquoise, the next color, which is our teal color, is PB16. This is phthalo turquoise in terms of pigment. It is a beautiful teal color. It is transparent, it is staining. I know that some companies are phasing out this single pigment color for a mix of two pigments, so I'm really happy to see it in here as the single pigment phthalo turquoise color. On the dark paper, it is also transparent. There's a faint shadow of a color, but that's it. And then we go back to the greens. We have two more greens. So the first green here is olive green. I'm pretty sure I've seen this combo of two pigments elsewhere, but it is a mix of an orange pigment, PO62. As an orange pigment, it is quite a yellow-orange pigment. And then we take that and we mix it with PG36, which is phthalo green yellow shade. So we get a yellow green and a yellow orange, and you mix them together and you get this really nice muted green color that I feel would be very easy to use for algae or moss, that kind of stuff. On the black paper, it is sort of a semi-opaque color. You definitely see something. I would think that the opacity in this color comes from the PO62 pigment, the orange pigment, because I know for sure that the green pigment is very transparent, so I don't think it would contribute to this effect. It's got to be the orange pigment. The next color is olive green dark. Very similar in concept to the previous color, but with a different green. So we get our PO62 orange pigment again, so the yellow orange, but this time instead of being mixed with a yellow green, it is mixed with a blue green. So we get a color that is much colder, much bluer indeed, and it can go really quite deep in terms of mass tone. As with the previous one, it has a bit of a ghost or a bit of an opacity visible on the black paper, which probably comes again from the orange pigments, because we saw the green here, the PG7. PG7 is transparent, so this ghost cannot come from the PG7 really, it's got to come from the orange pigment. The very last color on this little swatch sheet is our agate brown, which is basically a red iron oxide. It is a synthetic one, so it's PR101. As a pigment, generally this one can vary a lot in terms of hue, in terms of transparency, so you never really know what you're gonna get until you swatch it. I think this one is a nice addition to the set that has basically not a lot of earthy colors, and even if seascape scenes don't have a lot of earthy elements to paint, it is a color that is really useful to have in a set for mixing, or anything that is like a construction or human-made, or you never know. But it is quite nice to have it here. In terms of opacity on the black paper, it is a very transparent version of this pigment because you barely have anything left visible on the swatch after I've painted it and it has dried. So that's it for the roundup of all the colors. I proceeded with my demo paintings, and I did two. I did one in a sketchbook and one on the calendar page. For the sketchbook one, I opted to draw a little indoor scene that has a window, and through the window I was gonna put the seascape element and have it be a scene at night of the sea with a lighthouse. For the indoor scene, since it's at night, I wanted it lit up in an interesting way. A few things of note before I get started. I inked this drawing with my Pentel brush pen, which is a tool that I'm very familiar with, but I've never really had any issue with feathering before. I don't think that's exclusive to this particular paper. I think there's quite a few papers out there that might have this effect, so I was a bit surprised to see the feathering happen. But as one of my teacher once said, a repeated mistake becomes a style, so I rolled with it and I inked the whole thing with the feathery ink. And it's not ideal, it's not necessarily what I wanted, but I think in the end it kind of works anyway because it's consistent over all of the drawing. For the painting part of it, I went through a process of doing multiple layers, so I can tell you for sure that these paints, they layer really well. I did a lot of mixing as well to get the sort of desaturated colors that I needed for that specific atmosphere, the specific vibe. And again, the colors mixed really, really well. I had no issues whatsoever. It was a fun set to paint with. I really had a great time. For the calendar image, I did the January one. I realized that we no longer are in January, but bear with me. These things take time to do. And I wanted to sort of keep the same kind of cat character, the same kind of setting, but to try a different mood. And I was going for a sort of sunset kind of pink and purple palette with, again, a lot of desaturated colors, because that's what happens when the sun sets. The colors get a lot more desaturated. It's always a challenge to paint, but I really enjoy painting that kind of scene. I tried to do something fun with the sky, and I gotta say, it was a lot of fun to paint on this paper. It took the wet in wet, the repeated washes of the sky quite well, and again, I was able to layer and layer and layer paint to get to the colors and effect that I wanted. For this one, I picked a different pen to ink my drawing, and it didn't feather at all. Overall, it was a really fun experience. I'm looking forward to painting the subsequent months of the year, and I will try to document that as well. If you are interested in seeing the full process of painting these two illustrations, I will be sharing the video for these for the members on YouTube and for the patrons on Patreon, if that's the kind of thing you would like to see. It's a bit of a lengthy process, so I might still speed it up just a little bit, but it's going to be a bit of a simple video of just me painting, and I'll try to include in the description relevant timestamps and relevant info. The links for all of that will be in the description of this video, and in the description of this video too, you will find the links to this beautiful palette, this really fun calendar, and this great sketchbook. I hope this video was helpful and or interesting, and I want to say a great big thank you to you for watching it this far. Also, a great big thank you to Paul Rubens for sending me these supplies to try out. It's always a lot of fun, and they really come up with super interesting ideas. I really enjoyed that. Again, all the links will be in the description. Please take a look if you want to get more details on anything. And until the next video, I hope you have a great time. And until then, take care. Bye bye.